Hi everyone, I'm Arlene, and today we are going all the way back to where it all began, A Courts of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Now that I've finished this series, I actually finished this series like 3 years ago. I read it from Kindle. I also have the graphics, audio, and the physical book. I am so obsessed with this series. Anyway, I wanted to revisit book one with fresh eyes because I already know that this reread is going to feel completely different. The clues, the foreshadowing, the character moments, and the things that we probably overlooked the first time. So, yes, we are going to talk about it all. And in this video, I will be recapping the book, revisiting the most important scenes, and we have visuals along the way so we can really step back into the story together. But we're not stopping at just recap. I also wanted to dig into the details that could connect to the rest of the ACOTAR world and potentially help us theorize about what's coming up next in ACOTAR 6 and 7. So this is part recap, part deep dive, and part theory spiral, which is honestly my favorite kind of video. Quick warning though, before we begin, this video is not spoiler free. So if you haven't read the entire series yet, now is your chance to click away and come back later, okay? So we can be both obsessed with this together. So without further ado, let's get started. A Course of Thorns and Roses started with Feyre hunting further in the woods. And even though it was heavily snowing that day, she spotted a doe. She was very happy because the size of this doe could feed her family for like a week or two. And adjacent to her, she also spotted a wolf that's so massive. And she was even like contemplating that this wolf could potentially be a fairy, right? Because she's further down into the woods close to the Prithian wall, and this wall is the separation between the human world and the fairy world, right? And so this wolf was focused on the doe. This wolf didn't even sense Farah, right? So we have to take note about this as to why the wolf didn't sense Farah. Like, come on, like wolf have heightened like senses, right? So Farah, oh wait, the wolf launched for the doe. The doe was instantly killed, right? The wolf bit the doe, obviously, and Farah took the liberty to, fire her ash arrow with the iron blade, and the wolf got struck by it on its side, and the wolf fell. Farah shot the wolf the second time using just a regular arrow, and it pierced right through the wolf eye. The wolf just stared at Farah, right? It didn't even like fight for its life. It didn't lunge for Farah. It's weird why it was just staring at Farah. And the wolf died. So now Farah was like, "Oh my god, I have two animals. What I'm going to do with it? Like she cannot carry both of the animals." So what she did is she skinned the wolf, right? Brought the wolf pelt with her and the deer. So Farah went home, and as soon as she arrived at their cottage, she put the deer on the wooden table and also the wolf pelt. And her father, Nesta and Elaine, was like, "Oh my God, Farah, where did you find this deer?" They were also happy because this deer could feed them for weeks, right? And also, this scene brought memories of me hating Elaine and Nasta because Elaine asked Farah, like, how long it will take you to clean the deer. Like, oh my god, she already killed the deer for them, and they're basically like assuming that she's also going to like clean the deer by herself. It's so unfair. And then Farah asked Nesta to chop wood, right? And Nesta was like, "I ain't doing such thing." Like, come on, like, I hate them so much. Anyway, so Farah also talked about how ungrateful her sisters were, and they didn't even notice about the painting Farah did on Elaine's dresser. Farah painted violets and roses on Elaine's dresser. She also painted crackling flames on Nesta's, and Farah also painted a night sky with swirling yellow stars on hers, as well as a foxglove at the edge of the table. And we have to take note about why Farah mentioned all of these paintings specifically, right? Like why violets and roses, why crackling flames, why foxglove, why it's the night sky, because this could potentially be connected to other books. Okay, so remember. And Farah also mentioned about their mother. Their mother died on this iron bed, and this iron bed is the only furniture that's that's in their cottage right now from what's left when they lost their fortune. And this iron bed was gifted by her father to her mother. This is where the bed her mother died. This is the bed where they were all born. Like, why this bed is made of iron? Is this some kind of a clue, or I'm just going crazy? It's just a bed. There's nothing special with this bed. Anyway, Farah also mentioned that Nesta looks like so much like her mother. Like, Nesta is also cold like their mother as well. Nesta is the only person who took it the hardest when they lost all their fortune, and Nesta hated their father for that for some reason. I don't know. Nesta only cares about Elaine and herself. Nesta doesn't care about Farah nor their father. All right. And they were all talking about nonsense. Like, Elaine needed some cloak and Nesta needed some new boots, like the audacity, right? They didn't even like try to help Farah. Ugh, I just hate them so much. Farah also mentioned about when their mother passed away. So prior to her mother passing away, her mother asked Farah to stay together and to look after them. Like, is this some kind of a clue? Like, why would their mother ask the youngest sister, right? Not even the father, her husband, not even Nesta nor Elaine. Like, why would she ask Farah, their youngest, to stay together and to look after her family, right? So we have to take note of this as to why. Like, who is even Mother Archeron? Like, what's her background? I don't know. It could be a potential clue that will be in the future books. So we'll see. The next day, Farah, Elaine, and Nesta went to the market because Farah was trying to sell the doe hide and the wolf pelt. Luckily, there was a mercenary, a woman that was so excited and bought the wolf pelt from Farah and paid a lot of money because she knew that the wolf pelt is extraordinary. They also met children of the blessed, and these children of the blessed worships the high fae, and one of the acolyte was wearing a bracelet with silver bells. Now, I don't know what it means, but it's also one of a clue or a hint, I don't know, that we need to take a note of, I guess. Who knows? It could potentially lead us to something in the next books. And yeah, so this acolyte mentioned something around about one of her cousin went to Prithian, crossed the wall, and then married a high fae, and now she's living the best of her life. And Farah and Nesta and Elaine was like, oh, maybe she was already killed or eaten. That's why she never returned. So it's one of the clues that possibly, in Prithian, it may not seem as what they thought, that it's, Prithian is dangerous. Prithian is full of monster. What if Prithian is really a safe haven? I don't know. That night, the family was eating dinner, and suddenly a beast burst through their doorway. Elaine and Nesta ran towards one of the corners in their cottage. They were both scared and cowering, and Farah stood in front of them and faced the beast, telling the beast to get out. And the beast told them, murderers. Elaine was like, we didn't kill anybody. Farah told the beast, like, who killed who? The beast said, the wolf. Farah didn't deny it. She told the beast, I killed it. And the beast was just like looking at her like, Farah of her size could take down a massive beast. And since Farah didn't deny it, the beast mentioned about the treaty. As per the treaty, right, a life for a life must be paid. And so Pharaoh was thinking that she would get killed right there and then. And she faced the beast, told the beast to not kill her inside the house, but to do it outside so her family could not see that she's going to be killed in the cottage. And the beast just laughed at Farah. Like, the beast told Farah, you have the nerves to request where you are going to get killed? But no, the beast told Farah that you are going to be spending the rest of your life beyond the wall in Prithian with him. And Farah was like, she couldn't believe it at first, right? But at the same time, she also thought that, fairies couldn't lie. So that must be the whole truth, that a life for a life must be paid. So she looked at her family. She was very scared and sad at the same time because she is the only provider for her family. She always hunt to put food on the table, right, for her family, because her father couldn't hunt. Nesta and Elaine don't do anything. I don't know why, but Farah was also thinking that if she goes to Prydian, she would never see her family again. She would never be able to fulfill the promise she made to their mother, right, to stay together and to look after them. And so she faced the beast, asking the beast when to go. The beast told her, now. And so on their way out, her father grabbed her arms, telling Farah, Farah, you have always been too good and to not come back. She told Farah to go somewhere new and to make a name for herself. So I was like, why would Father Archon say that to Farah? And why would their mother like ask that of Farah as well? Out of the three sisters, right? She was the youngest. Why would her mother ask Farah to stay together and to look after her family? So is Father and Mother Archon some kind of a seer, a witch, a wizard? Outside their cottage, there was a beautiful mare waiting for Farah to ride on. Like, why is Farah getting some kind of a special treatment, right? You would think that since Farah killed the friend of this beast, right, the beast will or would put some kind a chain, right, on Farah's wrist and maybe like drag her from their cottage towards Prydian. Like, I don't even know, or I forgot actually how long it will take them to just walk from their cottage to Prydian. But anyway, like, why Farah is getting some kind of special treatment, and why the beast is treating her nicely, right? Isn't it strange? But anyway, they left the cottage. They walked through this eerie and creepy forest, and at the end of the forest, right, they finally reached the spring court. And Farah was so starstruck of the beauty of the spring court and its gardens. Like, it was so colorful that she wouldn't be able to paint all of that, right? Because it was just mesmerizing. So anyway, the manor was also beautiful. So when they went inside, there was this long table full of delicious food, and with like a bright light, like there was some kind of a magic, and the beast transformed into a high fae man. So Pharaoh was so shocked, like, oh my god, this beast is a high fae. And the beast told Farah, well, he's not the beast anymore. The high fae man told Farah to sit down and eat. And Farah was like, she was thinking, like she was recollecting memory from, I don't know who said it, maybe one of her ancestor, that if a fairy offered you drink and food, to not drink and eat. Okay, that's what she was thinking. And then there was another high fae that sat on the uh, beside the table, and he was like looking at Farah, thinking like, is this the woman that killed the wolf? He was also in disbelief that this small woman could take down a massive wolf, right? This other high fae, he was so furious at Farah. He was so mad, but didn't dare to touch Farah. Tamlin was like, well, the beast, right? His name is Tamlin. So Tamlin told the other high fae, Lucien, behave. So now Farah knows now the name of the other high fae, who was Lucien. So anyway, since Farah wasn't sitting down, I guess Tamlin, did some magic to hold Farah and to force her to sit down, right? And told her to eat. Like, why would these high fae offer food to Farah, and why they are treating Farah nicely? Because at first, even Farah thought that she's going to be put in a dungeon or something, right? Isn't it strange? But anyway, Farah was so worried about her family. She was like, "Is there some kind of a loophole?" And she was like, "Nobody will care for her family. Like, nobody will provide food for her family." And Tamlin was like, they are being taken care of, and to not worry about them. They are well provided for. And Farah was like, "Really?" So at this point, Farah calmed down and she finally ate. And so, oh, I forgot to mention, they're all wearing masks, right? So Tamlin, Lucian, both of them were wearing masks. And there was another woman who was wearing mask as well. And Farah was like, is this some kind of some fairy fairy fashion of some sort? So anyway, this woman took Farah upstairs and showed Farah to her bedroom. While they were walking upstairs, right, Farah kind of like overheard a conversation between Lucien and Tamlin. Lucien was like, it is time to say enough. And this is some kind of a false mission to send them over the wall. Like, them. Lucien mentioned them. Send who? Them to do what? The next day, Farah went downstairs and she went to the dining area. Lucian and Tamlin were already eating. So Farah sat on the chair she previously sat on the other day, and she ate as well. And she asked both of them, like, what am I to do with my life here in Prythian? Do you want me to earn my keep? Tamlin was like, no, we don't want you to do anything. Do whatever you want. Do you have some kind of a hobby? And then Farah ask them like, hey, there must be some kind of a loophole to this treaty. Talman said no, right? According to the treaty, a life for a life must be paid. So she was like in her mind, I'm going to, be friends with Lucian because Lucian might know someone or somebody that can potentially tell them if there's a loophole to this treaty, right? So anyway, after dinner, Farah walked into one of the gardens in the spring court, and Tamlin was also there. Tamlin noticed Farah and asked her, do you want a tour? Farah was like, no. Anyway, Farah was still upset, right? She's mad. She faced Tamlin and told Tamlin, why am I in this realm, right? For a treaty she didn't know ever existed. Like, she also asked, why is his friend in the woods that day? So Tamlin was like, very still. He was feeling awkward. He didn't know what to say, but instead he said there's a sickness, a blight that's slowly spreading across Prythian. And it has been going on. It's been diminishing their magic for 50 years now, hence the mask. They've been stuck with this mask for 50 years now. Farah was so worried about this sickness. She asked Tomlin, like, will this sickness spread across the wall over the human lands? Tomlin said, I have no idea. Like, he doesn't really know if it's going to spread over the human lands, but it could spread. I think he mentioned that it could spread, but he just don't know as to what extent, right? So anyway, Tamlin left Farah. So Farah, alone in the garden, noticed a bench full of foxgloves. Remember at their cottage, she also painted a foxglove at the edge of the dining table. So the foxglove that she painted at their cottage and the foxglove in the spring court gardens, is there some kind of a connection? Is Farah Archeron also have does she have the ability, or not just ability, but is she a seer just like maybe her mother and father, you know, have this kind of ability to foresee the future? The next day, Farah joined Lucian patrol the grounds, and they were both riding horses. Lucian was like, come on, Farah, just tell me honestly, why did you really join me? And Farah was like, I really wanted to know if you can tell me if there is a loophole to this treaty. But Lucian said, no, I'm sorry, I really can't help you. There's nothing I can do. There is no loophole, but there is this creature called the Soriel. This Soriel can, answer any questions Farah might have, but it's so hard to catch this Soriel, right? And as they were talking about this creature, they heard something around them. And there's another creature just lurking behind with a creepy voice. And Lucian was like so scared and told Farah to drop her bow, do not look. And so Farah went still. And this creature with a creepy voice, it says, I will grind your bones between your claws. I will drink your marrow. I will feast on your flesh. I am what you fear. I am what you dread. Look at me. Look at me. Vera didn't dare look. It kept talking. I will fill my belly with you. I will devour you. Look at me. Look at me. I don't know how many times the creature said, look at me. But since Farah didn't look, right, the creature kind of like disappeared. And Farah asked Lucian, what was that? Lucian said that it was the bug. And Farah was like, why can't I look at it, right? And Solution explained that if you look at this bug, then this is when the creature will get real and will eat her. So Farah was like, oh my God, these are the creature that's made Britain very scary. And these are the creatures that made humans, hate fairies or creatures or whatever that's in Britain, right? And so they went back home. And when they arrived at the manor, Tamlin was there. Oh, did you guys have a good hunt? And this is when Lucian was like, hey, Tamlin, the bog was in the area again. And so Tamlin laughed because he was going to catch and kill the bog. And only Tamlin could be able to kill the bog. And so Farah was like, oh my God, like, is Tamlin really powerful? Like, do I need to be scared of him? Like, I am with someone who can kill a bug. Apparently, nobody else can in Springcourt, just Tamlin. And so day goes by and it's already dinner time. Farah, for some reason, she was kind of worried that Tamlin hasn't returned yet, right? So she went into her room. And then when she was, looking outside by the window, she saw her father. And Farah was so shocked, like, oh my God, my old limping father came to save me, to Prityan. There must be a horse somewhere that my father brought with him. So she ran towards her father, like thinking, oh my God, I have to escape. My father came here to save me. But then suddenly a hand just grabbed Farah. And Farah was like, please, it's my father. And Tamlin was like, your father, look at it again. And this father figure just, like melted melted into like water or to nothingness. And Tomlin was like, that's the puka. This puka will use your own desire and to eat you. Didn't someone tell you to keep your wits? So Vera was like, can you blame me? Can you blame me to see my limping father? Like, what do you think? Like, should I just, stay and sit still? Anyway, then Farah noticed, Tomlin's arm is bleeding. He's wounded because that day Tomlin, killed the bug. And Farah was like, is there an infirmary here somewhere? Let's go clean your wound. So Farah wrapped Tomlin's arm with a bandage, right? And, this scene feels like intimate, romantic to me. I really feel like this is maybe the start when Farah, like, put down her wall and began to trust, not really trust, began to open up to Tamlin. And as she was wrapping Tamlin's arm, Tamlin was like, you don't know how to read, but you can hunt. Tell me how. And Farah was like, well, you gotta do what you gotta do to survive. And Tamlin showed Farah the library. And with the flick of his fingers, all the candles in the library lit up. And Farah was so shocked because the library was so beautiful and she was just taking everything in. And Tamlin was like, do you need help? Do you want me to help you write to your family? I feel like this scene, Talman really want to get to know more about Farah, but Farah still has this wall. You know, she still doesn't trust Tomlin. And Farah didn't take it lightly when she heard the word help from Tomlin. And so she responded with, help? You mean a fairy is passing out the opportunity to mock an ignorant mortal? Tomlin says, why should I mock you for a shortcoming that isn't your fault? Let me help you. I owe you for the hand. And Farah just responded with like, I'm fine. And Tomlin says, you think I've got nothing better to do with my time than come up with elaborate ways to humiliate you so you'll let Lucien takes you on hunts? And she interrupted Tomlin. Lucien doesn't pretend to be anything but what he is. What's that supposed to mean? Tomlin said. It means you don't trust me. And Farah says, how can I trust a fairy? Don't you delight in killing and tricking us? Tomlin said, you aren't what I had in mind for a human. Believe me. And Tomlin was like calm and he goes, Farah. But Farah just shook her head. And so Tomlin just left her and let her be in the library. And in the library, Farah discovered a mural. And that mural is the story of Prithian. And it started with this black big cauldron held by a slender female hands. And beneath it, right, the cauldron is pouring some magical
text or something, and beneath it, it forms the world. And one part of the world is Prithian. So in Prithian, there is on the northern part of Prithian, there's spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And on the southern part of Prithian, there's the dawn, day, and the night courts. So there are seven courts governed by seven high lords. So Farah stayed in the library for days or weeks, and then she finally left the library. She finally decided that she want to go talk to Lucien and ask him how to catch a Soriel because she really needed answers, right? She need to know if there's a loophole to this treaty. And so she goes, she went looking for Lucien and found Lucien in his bedroom, and she asked Lucien how to catch a Soriel. So Lucien didn't hesitate. Lucien provided her clues that, you need a bow, you need a knife, you need a young birch trees, freshly slaughtered chickens, and it must be a double loop snare, and you need to trap the Sorial for some reason in close to water. Farah went into the woods, laid all of her traps, and successfully trapped a Sorial. The Sorial was like, ask me your questions, human, and then free me. Farah was like, she didn't hesitate. Is there truly no way for me to go home? The Soriel responded with, not unless you seek to be killed and your family with you, you must remain here. By the way, we have to pay attention to this scene and their conversation because the Soriel revealed a lot of information. Okay. And so she asked again, Farah asked again, what do you know about Tamlin? The Soriel says, be more specific, human, for I know a good many things about the High Lord of the Spring Court. Farah was so shocked because this is the first time Farah is finding out that Tamlin is a high lord, right? She thought Tamlin was just a high fae. So she was like, oh my god, Tamlin is one of the high lords that govern the seven courts of Pritium. And she goes like, did you also the Suriel's like, did you also not know that this is the spring court, little human? Farah says, yes, yes, I knew about that. The Suriel says, spring, summer, autumn, winter, dawn, day, and night. The seven courts of Britain, each ruled by a high lord, all of them deadly in their own way. They are not merely powerful, but they are power. And Farah was like, are you not a member of the Spring Court? The Suriel says, I am a member of no court. I am older than the High Lords, older than the Prithian, older than the bones of this world. And the Sorial says, actually, Farah also asked about what can be done about this blight that has spread in Prithian, stealing and altering the magic. Where did it come from? She asked. The Sorial says, stay with the High Lord, human. That's all you can do. You will be safe. Do not interfere. Do not go looking for answers after today, or you will be devoured by the shadow over Prithian. He will shield you from it. So stay close to him and all will be righted, right? Stay close to him, it says, and all will be righted. Pharaoh was like, where did the blight come from? Oh, the Soriel says, the High Lord does not know that you came here today, does he? He does not know that his human woman came to trap a Soriel because he cannot give her the answer she seeks. But it's too late, human, for the High Lord, for you, perhaps for your realm as well. But the Soriel keeps talking and giving and revealing a lot of information. The Sorial also says across the violent Western Sea. Okay, you have to pay attention. Across the violent Western Sea, there is another fairy kingdom called Hybern, ruled by a wicked, powerful king. Yes, a king, not a high lord. There, his territory is not divided into courts. There, he is law unto himself. Humans no longer exist in that realm, though his throne is made of their bones. For some time now, the king of Hybern has found himself unhappy with the treaty the other ruling high fae of the world made with you humans long ago. He resents that he was forced to sign it, to let his mortal slaves go, and to remain confined to his damp green isle at the edge of the world. And so, 100 years ago, he dispatched his most trusted and loyal commanders, his deadliest warriors, remnants of the ancient armies that he once sailed to the continent to wage such a brutal war against you humans, all of them as hungry and vile as he. As spies and courtiers and lovers, they infiltrated the various high fae courts and kingdoms and empires around the world for 50 years, and when they had gathered enough information, he made his plan. But nearly 5 decades ago, one of his commanders disobeyed him, the deceiver, and the Suriel stopped. The Suriel says, "We are not alone." And the Suriel's like, "Human, you must free me and run. Do not forget what I told you. Stay with the High Lord and live to see everything righted." And Fair was like, "What is it?" The Suriel says, "The Naga. Fairies made of shadow and hate and rot. Probably they heard my scream and they smelled you. Free me, human. They will cage me if they catch me here. Free me and return to the High Lord's side." So Farah freed the Suriel, and as soon as she freed the Suriel, the four Nagas arrived, right? These four Nagas were described to be like reptilian, creepy creatures with like a human torso, but the rest of the body is reptilian. So they attacked the Suriel first, and Farah stepped in. She basically like saved the Suriel and shot the two Nagas with her bow and arrows, and luckily she hit the spot. Two of those Nagas died, right? And so the other two remaining Nagas were about to attack Farah, right? But Tamlin arrived. So at this point, Farah was already on the ground, right? Because she was fighting the other two Nagas. But luckily, Tamlin arrived and killed the other two Nagas and saved Farah. Right, so Farah was like panting. She was breathing heavily, and she faced Tamlin and told him, "Thank you for saving my life." So Tamlin helped her, and they walk in silence back to the manor. The following day, Tamlin, Lucian, and Farah were having a conversation, and this is the time where Tamlin and Lucian revealed a very important information that fairies can lie. The iron doesn't do anything, but only ash. So Farah was shocked and surprised because she thought, right? Like, not only her, but all the humans thought that fairies cannot lie. So she was thinking, what are the things that Tomlin and Lucian told her that were lies, right? So she was also thinking maybe this whole treaty thing is also a lie. And so she was mad about it. And she was kind of sad at the same time because she misses her family. But then Tamlin told her another thing, that do not worry about your family. They're well taken care of, and they were glamored. I glamored them. So Farah was like, wait, what? What do you mean by glamored? So Tamlin explained that they don't have any memories or recollection whatsoever of him bursting through the door. And Farah was like, "What? Why did you do that? Like, how could you erase my family's memories? Like, what if like they forget about me? They don't remember me anymore." So Tamlin told her, "Do not worry. I told them that, or I glamored them that you are safe. You are with your aunt, right?" And so Farah was taken aback, and at the same time, she thought that, oh, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe I should be thankful to Tamlin that he glamored my family, so that they won't come and try to rescue her because it's very dangerous right now in Prithian. And so the following day, Lucian and Tamlin took Farah to one of the enchanted forests in Spring Court. It was a glen, right, with a starlight pool. So they brought blanket with them because they were about to have a picnic, right? And so in this enchanted forest where the glen is out, it's called the glen, where the starlight pool is at. Tamlin was like teasing Farah to, swim with him. And Farah was like, "Oh no, I don't want to swim with you." But anyway, they swam together. They went in the pool, and Farah was so amazed, like, "Oh my god, this water looks like starlight. It's so beautiful." And starlight, does that ring a bell to you guys? Starlight. is starlight some kind of a portal, right? In the Maas verse, you if you have heard of the other books, right? It was I don't want to reveal a lot of information. I don't want to spoil other books because I'm only talking about ACOTAR. But maybe, right? This I will tell you. Maybe the starlight. Starlight is some kind. I mean, the pool, the starlight pool, is some kind of a portal or some sort. But anyway, this scene felt really like intimate and romantic. I think this is when Farah was really, not really starting, but I think she has already started to pull her guard down, and she was already having some kind of feelings for Tamlin. I felt like she already liked Tamlin at this point. And as they were swimming, Tamlin talked about Lucien. So Tomlin told Farah that Lucien is the son of the Autumn High Lord, and Lucien was in love with a lesser fairy. She wasn't a nobility, but his father executed her right in front of Lucien while three of Lucien's brother were holding him down. Like such like they're so brutal. Like why would they do that? And so that's the reason why Lucien left Springcourt. So when Lucien left Springcourt, his brothers, three of his brothers, like chased him because they want to kill Lucian. Right? They were fighting for the heir or the throne to whoever is going to be the High Lord next for Autumn Court. So I think Lucian was in the border of Spring Court somewhere. So Lucian killed one of his brother, right? Because he was like defending himself. He's running for his life, and Tomlin arrived and also killed one of the brothers. And this is when Tomlin made Lucian a mercenary to Spring Court. Then Tomlin asked Farah, "What would make you happy?" Farah was like, "I don't know." And Tomlin asked her, like, what happened or how did your family lose all of your fortunes? So Farah, right, since she already like starting to open up to Tomlin before, she didn't want to reveal a lot of information about her. But she told Tomlin, right, openly that, when I mean, my father was a mercenary, and during his prime, he invested a lot or all of their money into this ship. And this ship will sail to Barath. I think the name of the ocean is called Barath. And I forgot what the ship is carrying, right? Maybe some jewels or something. But anyway, this ship didn't arrive to Barath. So I'm not sure what happened to these ships. Maybe these ships sunk. So anyway, that's when they lost all of their fortunes. And Farah was like, "This happened 8 years ago." And as soon as she reached 14 years old, she started hunting to be able to provide for their family. And Tomlin was kind of like emotional about that, or some sort, but he was like to cheer Farah up. He was like, "Oh, tomorrow I'm going to show you the gallery where you could paint." And Farah painted in the gallery, and she was so happy that she now have a lot of art tools to use. Right, she has a lot of paint, she has a lot of paint brushes and canvases. Right, and considering before, right back at her cottage, where she didn't have anything, she only have three colors of paint that Elaine gave her, but she was also feeling guilty, like, "Oh, why am I feeling happy here in Spring Court?" Right, I am doing what I love. I love painting. I feel safe here. And she's really feeling guilty because like she's thinking like, what if my family is not happy and she's happy? She's really feeling bad about it. So she's upset. So she left the gallery. She went into one of the gardens in Spring Court, and in the garden there were a lot of roses. So she picked up one of the rose, and the thorns, right, made her fingers blood. And at the time, Tomlin also arrived. Like he was checking on Farah. He noticed Farah's hands or fingers bleeding. So Tomlin lifted Farah's hands and kissed her, right? And then lifted another hand, right? And kissed it too. So this scene is also very romantic. Like, ah, guys, don't hate me, okay? I mean, I'm sure all of us fell in love. Well, maybe not all but most, right? We felt something in ACOTAR book one. Just forget about the other books, right? Just pretend that we're reading the first book and we know nothing about what's going to happen right in the future. We're in this moment right there, this scene, right, when Tomlin kissed Ferris both hands and said, "Don't feel bad about doing things that makes you happy." And I was really like, I my heart skipped a beat at this scene. Since Farah was so upset and Tomlin was trying to console her, right? So Tomlin told Farah, you know what? This garden was planted by my father for his mother's mating, right? They were mated. And but also revealed at the same time that his father, as well as two of his brothers, were evil and as bad as, Lucian's father and brothers. But it's kind of sad because he also told Farah that his parents and two of his brothers were all killed, right, by another high lord from another court. So Farah was like, oh my God, this guy is revealing a lot of information that I could potentially use against him, right? So anyway, oh, this is also the part that Farah saw a huge bonfire. So she asked Tomlin, "Oh, what is that?" And Tomlin told her that it's for Kalanmai, it's for the Great Night, and the magic fairies generates or creates, at Kalanmai helps regenerates the land. And he looked at Farah, told Farah, "You're not invited." And then I think this is on the next day. Farah was strolling right in the gardens and she saw Tamlin and Lucian. They were both talking to an invisible figure. So Farah was like, who are they talking to? Like, I don't see anyone. And then so she hid, right? She hid. She was eavesdropping and she overheard Tomlin saying, I know what day it is to this invisible creature. And this invisible creature, which is called the Ator, right, told Tomlin, your behavior garnered a lot of interest at court, and she's begun to wonder why you haven't given up yet, right? So she again, who is this she whom they all fear? Then finally, the day of the great night arrived, right? So Farah heard the drums because the fairies were celebrating outside, and she went downstairs. She saw Tamlin shirtless, and she was like, "Oh my God, Tamlin's body!" She was adoring Tamlin's body, and she was like, "Where are you going?" Tamlin told her, "I need to participate in the great night as a high lord," and Farah asked, "What is a great night?" Like Tamlin didn't want to answer for whatever reason Farah's question, but then he goes, go to your chambers and lock your door. So Farah was like, what's going on? Like, what's all this secrecy? So she said, why? Farah, Talon told her, just do it and don't come out until morning. So this particular scenario is like, it kind of like revealed that Tamlin is kind of like dominant and controlling a little bit, right? So she told Farah to just do it and lock your door and don't come out until morning without any reason, right? So Farah was like, are you going into a battle or something? And Tamlin was like, no, I'm not going into a battle. So Tamlin laughed and Farah went back to her room. Like she was checking and checking her window and she couldn't take it anymore. So, she put on her hooded cloak and she left, right? She disobeyed Tamlin. She has this urge to go look on what's happening in that ceremony, right? And so I would too. Like if someone told me to not go, I would go, right? Because the more I'll be curious. And so she went, right? She went closer to the bonfire, right? Where she saw these fairies dancing around the bonfire. And so, but someone like grabbed her. Someone was like grabbed her arms. I think it was her arms, but it was her back. And then she saw these three lesser fairies and they were like, oh, what's this human doing here at the great night? And she was like, she was trashing. She couldn't yank her arms, and since she was trashing, right, she's about to fall, but someone grabbed her hands, right, or grabbed her to steady her, and she looked and she saw this handsome male, and she thought like, oh my God, this is the most handsome male she has ever seen in her entire life. And this male told her, "There you are. I've been looking for you." And he stared or glanced at the three fairies and told them, "Thank you for finding her for me." Like, why would this guy tell Farah that I have been looking for you? And then he goes, "Do you need company?" Farah said, "Nope." And then he goes, like, why would a human be here at the great night? And she was like, my friends invited me. And this guy asked, like, who invited you? So obviously Farah didn't want to reveal information that it was Tamlin and Lucien, and she was just like, my friends, and they're there celebrating. So anyway, this guy left. So Farah also, proceed to near the where the bonfire is at. And
But
then
then,
Lucien saw Farah. As soon as Lucian saw Feyre, he went pale, right? He was so nervous. And then he was like, "What are you doing here, useless human fool?" So Lucian immediately like slung Feyre over his shoulder and started running so fast that Feyre thought like she was so dizzy. And, as soon as they reached the manor, Lucian dropped her at the hallway. And Lucian was like, "What are you doing there? Didn't anyone tell you to stay in your room? Didn't anyone tell you what great night is?" And Farah was like, "No, what is it?" So this is when Lucian explained that, during the great night at Kalanmai, Tamlin will allow this magic to enter his body, his mind, and soul, and Tamlin wouldn't be the same person anymore, right? And the sole purpose of, oh no, this magic will turn Tamlin into a hunter, and the sole purpose of Tamlin at Great Night, right, is to find a maiden, and their coupling, right, will help generate the land. So Vera was like, "What? Wait, what?" She was kind of jealous. Like, Tamlin is going to find a maiden, and they are, doing that stuff. And so Farah was kind of jealous. And but then Lucian told her, like, "I'm glad I found you when I did, because if Tamlin, smelled you, he would have claimed you." So Farah was like, "Oh, like she." There was like a shiver through her body, like, "Oh my God, I'm glad you did. I'm glad you told me all about this information." And Lucian left. Then Farah went back to her bedroom. She was so bored. She kept on checking, like, "Oh my God, is it over already?" So she went downstairs. She went to the kitchen and the painting room. But then Tamlin arrived, right? Tamlin asked her, like, going somewhere. And Farah was like, "Midnight snack?" And so Tamlin, not fully himself yet, right? He still have the remnants of this magic within him, right? So he pinned Farah against the wall and told Farah, "I smelled you. I searched for you, but you weren't there. You drove me mad." And Tomlin was so close to Farah's face, and Tomlin bit Farah's neck, right? Not that much, but just to like hold her steady. And then Tomlin kissed Farah's neck that made, Farah grind her hips against Tomlin. And Farah really wanna kiss Tamlin, right? Because she has this urge to kiss him. She felt jealous earlier because Tamlin is looking for a maiden, right, as part of the great night. But then Tamlin kind of ruined the mood. Tamlin was like, "Don't disobey me again." And Farah slapped Tamlin's face and told him, "Don't tell me what to do." And then the next day, Farah told Tomlin, "Hey, I want to show you something. I have something for you." So they went into the gallery, right, where Farah was painting. And then Farah handed the Glen the starlight pool. She painted it, right? Earlier, they went to this Glen with the starlight pool. So she wanted to give it to Tomlin. But then Tomlin saw another painting. It was the painting of the forest where Farah hunts, and Tomlin wanted that one. And Farah was like, "Hey, do you need help? Is there anything I can do to help you with the mask and this disease, this blight that's spreading over?" And Tomlin was like, "No, I don't want you to do anything." And Tomlin was like, "I've had many lovers of nobility, princesses, but none of them understood him, what it's like for him to care for his people and his lands. I don't know why Tamlin told that Farah that information right there, right? So anyway, Tamlin took Farah in one of the enchanted forests in Springcourt. This forest has a willow, an overlooking willow. So they sat under that, and then Tamlin kissed Farah. Farah was like so shocked. She didn't really expect the kiss, but it was so romantic. Oh my god, that scene was very romantic. And as soon as Tamlin kissed Farah, Vera heard the magical, enchanted music that is coming from the willow. And so they both listened to the music. They lay down and they slept together in that glen. Thank you guys for watching. This is only part one. I'm going to wrap it up here because I don't want this video to be so long. And I'm going to see you guys for part two on my next video.